Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We're about to do this right here, right now. And just like when we were in school, the teacher has to say, it's time to set crisscross applesauce. Indian style, right? We said Indian style. We're not trying to offend anybody. Once again, my name is Bill Keller. Thank you for coming out tonight. I just do have a few questions. Let's poll the audience real quick. How many of you here drove for 1 hour? Raise your hand. Put them down. 2 hours, raise your hand. Not bad. 3 hours, raise your hand. 4 hours. What'd you do, ride a horse? My gosh. Thanks for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to have a great time, but I do have to ask you this. Are there any Navy SEALs in the audience? I always like to ask. Any
all kinds of things happening to children, right? And so what we have to do, and what we do with America's Future, is we're one among many organizations, but we're proud of what our track record is, and we do partner with other nonprofits who we vet to make sure that they are doing things. Because there are nonprofit organizations that are involved in this endeavor that are not good. There are churches and church associations that are directly involved in child trafficking, and they benefit tremendously by getting, hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases from the U.S. government, from taxpayers. And some of them are right out here. A lot of them are right out here, actually. So I mean, I could go on and talk about, 1,000 things. I think what we need to understand in our country is that, it's like I was just saying about the Pledge of Allegiance and a little bit of history lesson there and where we are right now. Our country is always at risk. We're always at risk because we have this thing called the Bill of Rights. We have this thing called the Constitution. We have this very open society, and that is our strength. But it's also our weakness because people, countries, ideologies, they go at those weaknesses in our system. And a weakness we look at as a strength, freedom of speech, right? And so, or freedom to do a lot of things, to be whatever, to color your hair, whatever you want to have, fly whatever flag you want to have. Although I don't know if he signed it yet, but Trump is going to sign I think he's going to sign it as a felony offense if you burn an American flag. So. And everybody, the crazies will say all kinds of things, but we have to look at this country and say, look, we don't want to. And Boone and I have crafted a couple of books about fifth generation warfare, and it's not about going to a revolution like we had in the late 1700s. It's really, at this point in time, the revolution, and it's a counter-revolution that we are involved in. And it is about information, and it's about understanding, and it's about dominating a space that we can dominate, right? We the people. And we do that by exactly what we have been doing in this country, across the country, is challenging those who has been in some conversation where they've gone, man, they're just a bunch of corrupt people, you know, and I'd use other words, but I'm in a church. So we've all done that. We have all done that and said that and been in those conversations. And what we have to do in this country is we have to start to decide to get involved. So it's like you're here, you know, you're here. That's fine. I mean, but you're here for a reason. Either you're curious, right? You're curious because you got this thing, you know, that's going on. And I appreciate, you know, when Boone talked about how far did you drive, and because I talked to a couple of folks that came up, you know, I know a couple of you drove a few hours to get here. So we're so appreciative of you being here. So you're curious, right? Well, I can tell you, I have been around this country. I've probably been in the last 4 years, 4.5 now, to over 100 cities in this country. And I'm not talking about cities like Chicago or Las Vegas. I've been there. But places like Wichita or Bow, Washington, which is up in the furthest northern part of Washington. We went to a big old, called the Cowboy Church up there a while back. You know, it's great. These are places where Americans are at, and everybody is hungry. Everybody is hungry because they're looking, you know, if you just watch a little bit of news, you're kind of looking and going, what the heck is what is happening? You know, and we can call people names, which, you know, and I'm guilty of that. We can do all these things, but we have to then stand back, take a step back and say, okay, what am I doing about it? Because if you do nothing, that's a lame excuse. In fact, it's not an excuse. It's just you're doing nothing. You know, I mean, you can pray, that's fine. You know, I always say prayer is the most powerful weapon. But at a certain point in time, we got to get off of our knees, right? God created warriors, right? God created warriors. So we are, and I'll use this metaphor and watch my time. So I want to make sure, because I'm a you know, maniac about time. But I have, for those that can't see, I have size 12 shoes, okay? And I'm standing with, you know, half of my feet off of the edge of this stage right here, right? And I do this sort of as a metaphor because normally I will stand down in the valley, right? The valley of the shadow of death, right? Psalm 23. But I'll use this metaphor to say this is where the United States of America is at. Okay, we are at a point where we almost lost this country. Okay, so all of the people that have griped at the pastor for having this event, or all the other churches that are out there going, well, it's too political. They're the problem. They are the problem. So, but we're at a place now in this country, and you can see it. And what I want you to do is, whenever you can, watch our president as he speaks and answers questions. I mean, you know, number one, he answers them off the top of his head all the time, right? We would never see that from other people who have occupied that office. But, you know, you watch and listen to him, and you can feel in him like anger. You can feel passion. You can see the love that he has for the people that he's trying to deal with. You can see the love that he has for this country. You know, he is, and I used to introduce him at giant rallies as the most imperfect guy you're ever going to vote for. And people would go nuts. They go, hey, this is great. This is what we want. We do not want these people who pretend to be perfect politicians, right? We don't need them. They have gotten us to this stage in our country, and we're not in a good spot. We are not. This man is trying to do all that he can, and one of the priorities, and we're right there, and we've been working hard for years with this nonprofit, this, you know, Get in the Fight Summit. We've been doing this for years, you know, against a system that wasn't helping us. Now we have a system that's helping us. We're in direct engagement with them, and it's like feels better. I mean, are they perfect? No, because it's a government. It's still a bureaucracy, and there's still challenges. That's why we have the flexibility, but we only have the flexibility to be able to operate if you get involved, okay? We will pop in here. We're going to pop off for the next 2 days. And then we're going to pop out and we're going to go to another state and we're going to be champions in another place. We're going to do it again and we're going to do it again and do it again. What we have to pray for is that somebody in this room listens, right? Only takes one, right? Only takes one. But somebody in this room listens and says, that's me. I'm going to get involved. I'm going to take this charge and I'm going to go with it. It may not be everybody. Some of you will let this all sink in over the next couple of days and go, I don't know, you know. And a lot of people are like that. Human nature is kind of, you know, I'm going to let somebody else do it because I don't want to have my name in the headlines of the newspaper. Or I don't want to have somebody at work berate me, or I don't want to have my friends not invite me over. Give me a break. You know, I mean, you don't know what I've been through. Okay. And I have, you know, when I said Psalm 23, I have walked through that valley of the shadow of death. I mean, physically, mentally, spiritually, and I'm standing on the stage, right? I'm standing on this, you know, in this beautiful church today to tell you that if you don't find something in yourself, right, to stand up and say, you know what, I'm going to get more involved in my church. I'm going to get more involved in my community. I'm going to go find somebody that's doing this, right? That's working in this field or working in this arena, and I'm just going to go see what they're doing. And maybe they need some volunteers. Maybe you have some skill set, right? Maybe you have some skill set that you're not even aware of yet, right? And you're here for a reason. You're drawn here for a reason. Take advantage of that. Last point that I'll make. I mentioned this to the pastor, that it gets back to this separation of church and state, which is totally, it's BS. So, I mean, whatever. But in our Bill of Rights, okay, we have the First Amendment, right? Everybody will go, well, First Amendment, if I gave you a test, multiple choice, you know, and whatever, you would all pick, for the most part, like 90% of you, unless you're really studied, you'd pick freedom of speech, right? First Amendment, freedom of speech, right? There's 5 parts to the First Amendment, 5. And the First Amendment was probably the amendment that they argued the longest over, okay? That when you look at the diaries and you look at the writings of the founders, and they're talking about the Bill of Rights, right? Which is a function. Our Bill of Rights is a function of the 10 Commandments. Most of you don't know that, okay? Because they took and they derived about 75% of the Constitution, our Declaration, and the Bill of Rights from the Bible itself. It's documented. It's not made up stuff, right? So the first component of the Bill of Rights, or the First Amendment, first component of the First Amendment, is the freedom of religion. Because they wanted to, it was such a strong desire. They had such a strong desire when they were arguing and debating and trying to decide what's the direction of this country. And they didn't say that everybody's going to be Christian. They didn't say that that's going to be our religion like they have over in England at the time, right? What they wanted to do, and they studied every single religion. You got to read Hamilton. You read some of these Federalist papers. You read their papers. I mean, they went back. One of them actually wrote a paper on Zoroastrianism, which comes out of, it's one of the oldest, in fact, it is the oldest documented religion in the history of the world. And it actually comes out of a small place in Iran, or at that time, Persia. So it's fascinating what they did to look at religion before they made the decision that that's going to be the very first thing that we're going to put into the very First Amendment of our Bill of Rights. And there's so much history about that, because they wanted to make sure that they gave people, because they were persecuted. They were persecuted for their religious beliefs for a couple of hundred years. A couple of hundred years. Like I said, we didn't create this thing over a 3-day weekend, right? And they came to this country and they made a decision. They said, okay, we're going to open it up. We're going to open it up. But one of the things that they also talked about, as they describe it in the Declaration of Independence, when we go through that, which takes you about 3.5 minutes, if you're an average reader like me, okay? So try to find that somewhere and read it. When they created that, they then started to really look at, we do want people that come into this country, and they all wrote about this, all of them. John Jay is probably one of the best ones in Federalist Paper number 2 and number 3. And he wrote about this. And it's the idea is when you come to this country, we want you to love the country, but we want you to accept what we have as a set of laws, right? Not canon law, which is the Catholic Church, or not Sharia law, which is the Islamic model, right? But our constitutional law. So if you follow the Constitution, you follow our rule of law, you're gonna, and you're a good capitalist, or you're whatever you are, a good business person, fine. You got strong families, you got strong convictions, good. But you come to this country and you accept how we are as a nation. The fight that we are in, this good versus evil fight, it is real, and it's a real fight. And it's this idea of globalism versus, the nationalism, and the media will go, nationalist, you're a nationalist, and they'll make that like an ugly thing. And actually what it means is that you just believe in your country. You believe in your country, and you believe in your sovereign borders. You believe in the sovereignty of your nation, right? That's what it is. That's what it is. And I can tell you, I can probably tick off maybe on two hands of 184 to, on a good day, we probably have 184, 185 countries on the planet right now, probably two hands. So 10 that are true, that are led by people that believe in the idea of their own sovereignty, right? And one of them is the United States of America, and man, were we under attack. And we're going to, continue to be under attack by evil, by demonic forces, okay? And so I won't go into all the Bible stuff there. I know we got great pastors here that are coming down here from up north too. So thank you for being here. I mean, because I always get in trouble if I talk about the Bible. Well, I'm like, I have like lawyers that tell me, no, don't say that, don't say that. But what I'm telling you is that you have got to decide, you personally, okay? You personally, you have to make an individual decision about what am I going to do to be a good servant, to be a good citizen in our country, okay? And that's it. It's that simple. It's that simple. And if you don't do that, and there's other people that don't do that, then we end up with what we have, right? And we might not have it. We may not have it for another 250 years. So in order for us to have this beautiful country for another 250 years, in order for the country to step back from where I'm at on this sort of dais up here, back and have a much stronger footing and a much stronger foundation, every single American better wake up and get involved. So God bless you all. God bless America. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, America's General Flynn. Outstanding, outstanding. As you guys are sitting down, we're prepping for the legal team to come up here for a second. Just let me, by a show of hands, General Flynn loves it when I do this. Raise your hand if you were upset when General Flynn went to jail. Oh, it's horrible, wasn't it? Put your hand down. General Flynn never went to jail. The case was dismissed, but nobody knows that. And that's because you're in a fifth generation warfare environment. And this is how we fight back. And we're fighting back. Yeah. Every time the whole audience is like, oh, yeah, I'm really mad. Didn't happen. But you think it happened, didn't you? You thought it happened. That's because you were tricked. That's because you were fooled. Ladies and gentlemen, next we're going to have our legislative update with Ben Moore and Allie Hopper right here.
Allie is going to go right after me, and she's going to talk about some of the legislative things she's been doing, some of the testimony in D.C. as well. So just wanted to introduce you to her, and she'll come back out here in a second. I can't see the screen. Okay, yes, I can see it. I like to move around a lot. Yeah, I need my notes here on my laptop. So I do like to move around a lot. Oh, yeah, I've got it right back there. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. He told me to give him a shout out. I never do. So So I'm an attorney in Florida. So obviously I traversed the nation to be here with you guys, like so many of us did, and we're happy to be in California. I've really been looking forward to this summit. California, Florida, New York, Texas are the four biggest states, and of course, by default, that's where we see the most trafficking of children and victims out of. And California is the largest. I believe of all the reported cases of trafficking in the United States, 10% of them were from California. So let that sink in. You have a problem with human and child trafficking in California, and I think many of you that are here tonight are aware of that. So I became a lawyer about 21 years ago. I'm a trial lawyer in Florida. I do this kind of thing, do pro bono work on the side. I've been doing it for probably about 13 years. Been with America's Future for the past 3 years or so. And I got called into this by someone in Northeast Florida that was actually going out and rescuing children in Central America and throughout the United States. And I heard about her story and I was like, I need to get involved. I need to use my law degree and my profession to get involved. And so that's how I got involved. I just started working with some trafficking victims, trying to get them help. And as I dug in deeper and began to find out more about how high up the ladder these cartels go and this international cartel goes and who's behind it, it shocked me. It blew my mind, actually. And so I decided to speak out on social media about it. And I developed a platform on Twitter at the time. And of course, I was an avid Trump supporter. And I got knocked off Twitter, like so many of us did, in August of 2020 for being a Trump supporter. And got my account back. Long story short, about 20 accounts later, I've really tried to stay in my swim lane, and I try to spend my time advocating and exposing child trafficking and some of the other matters that we see that our nation is dealing with. I had the privilege of meeting General Flynn just via technology and stuff back in 2018, and then getting to know Mary about 4 years ago. So I'm happy to be a part of this team and serving and trying to be here with you guys. And our goal is to equip you. Our goal is, I think, like General Flynn said, we're here for a couple of days, but our goal is to essentially force multiply so that you guys can carry on what we're doing all over the nation, that you can carry it on right here in Oxnard, okay? And that you expand what you're doing, and so eventually it spreads through California. So we did prepare a slide presentation. Greg, if you can go ahead and bring that up. Okay, we have a group of legal interns, and they do a lot of research for states all over the nation, and they put together and they conglomerate the laws pertaining to child trafficking and human trafficking. And so we're very appreciative of them. They're from Liberty Law School, and they help us immensely. Mary and General Flynn's niece, Alicia, she's an attorney as well in Pennsylvania. She does a lot of work. She does a lot of work on the legal briefing side with the Supreme Court, and she couldn't be here tonight. But I work with her on this as well. So let's go back to that slide, please, Greg. Of course, legal disclaimer, I have to give you the legalese. I'm not your lawyer. I'm just here talking about the law in California. I'm not a California lawyer. So don't take anything I say as personal advice. Next slide, please. I told you a little bit about myself. I don't want to focus a whole lot on myself. I do kind of have a unique background in that my undergrad degree, bachelor's degree, is in theology. I went to Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, and I never thought I would be a lawyer. I didn't really like lawyers at the time, and lo and behold, I became a lawyer. But now I see how God used it in my life, and I'm thankful. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I have 3 kids. 3 teens back in Florida who I love, and a little miniature golden doodle. So that's enough about me. I did one thing that really shook me to the core, as I was saying earlier, is seeing how many people, well-off people, billionaires, were involved in the exploitation of children? How many politicians and billionaires? And that stuff kept me up at night. Several years ago, when WikiLeaks, when they had Assange, WikiLeaks dropped, and of course Liz Crokin, who couldn't make it tonight, she's here a lot of times exposing a lot of that. A lot of that stuff came out involving some stuff in Washington, D.C., some really horrible, nasty stuff that people said, it's no big deal. It's just pizza, right? It's just pizza. And now we know, I think it's been revealed that it's code words for pedophilia and sex trafficking. In fact, the FBI has released documentation before showing the symbolism that is used for them to cover up pedophilia and to be able to speak in code about it. As I began to discover that, I got sick to my stomach. As I talked to victims more and more, I just, it really does shake you to the core. As I've met people like Baz and Tina who rescue the kids, and you hear their stories, you realize we've got a major problem nationally on our hands. It's a problem that's too big for the local prosecutors. It's a problem that's probably too big for the Department of Justice prosecutors, because it's an overwhelming problem involving hundreds of thousands of children, not just in the United States, but in Central America and Asia. I mean, it's an international problem. Like I said, it's an international cartel that brings in billions, hundreds of billions of dollars a year. And General Flynn mentioned it. You use heroin, you use it up once. A child can turn 20 tricks a night for $150 a pop and 7 days a week. That's the reality. When you begin to see those kind of realities, you begin to think, what can I do? The other thing that has really kept me going in this fight, because it's intense. It's emotionally and spiritually intense. There's a warfare that's going on, and Satan is pushing back really hard. He does not want this stuff exposed. And thank the Lord that we have a president, President Trump, that is going to rip back the veil, and he's ripping back the veil. Yeah, that's something to clap for. And he is going to expose it. And we've got families like the Flynns that have not given up. They're fighting like a Flynn for the children and for our nation. And so we got to do our part too to be involved in that. But the thing that I always thought about in the days that I just wanted to quit and just be a lawyer and make money and live on Main Street, my little Main Street, piece of Main Street, travel and stuff like that, I just keep thinking about those kids, the little victims, and the ones that don't have parents, the ones that are saying, if you're not going to be my voice, who's going to be my voice, right? They don't have parents. Imagine. So I often ask people, imagine if it was your child that got kidnapped and that was trafficked, and they were being forced to be exploited day in and day out. You would fight through hell and back to find them, right, and to help them. Well, these kids don't have that, and so we're it, and we can't, nobody's going to come to save them except you and I, and that's what we have to do. So that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps driving me. And of course, Jesus always said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me," and it's better that a millstone be hung around the neck than you harm one of these children. And so if that's that important to Jesus, that should be that important to us. Okay, back to the legal. I just had to give my little spiel there on why, what motivates me. Greg, next slide, please. That's my X count. If you want to follow me, Sunday's War. I don't post as much because I don't have as much time because I'm operating a law firm. That's what I do for my real job. Next slide. I went through how, I became involved in the fight, and each of us have our own stories, and it's really a God thing and how he brings us around. And God also will equip, you're sitting here today in various fields, various organizations, various talents, and God has equipped you perfectly for this battle. You may not know it yet. You just have to explore what those talents are and see how God is going to use those in your life. And I didn't know when I was in Bible college. I thought I was going to be like a pastor or missionary, not a lawyer. When I became a lawyer, I didn't think I'd be standing up here one day, but we are in unprecedented times and unprecedented days, and you can probably hear the urgency in my voice because I feel like, especially now in 2025, we have to have all hands on deck. And you've got to figure out what talent God has given you and what can you do to truly get involved in the fight, and look for your opportunity. Okay, next slide. Now, I'm going to contradict Boone here. I'm going to tell you to take out your phones and turn them back on, please. Sorry, Boone. And I want you to scan that QR code, because that QR code is going to take you to the California Legal Resource Guide. And that was a legal resource material with all the laws in California related to this that is going to give you a hand up. It's essentially organized according to the child sexual exploitation laws, child protective service laws, public records request laws. So I want you to scan that. I want you to keep that on your phone. I want you to save that website. And when you go home tonight, I want you to navigate that website, because a lot of legal interns and lawyers went through that and put that together for you here in California. And Oxnard, you're kind of the base. You're the first summit we've had in California. And this is something that you can literally use in your community to wake your community up and to equip you to fight back. Next slide. Okay, now turn your phones back off so I don't get in trouble with Boone. Our goals are to educate you and to equip you so that you can take the battle back to California. I want you to see some of this stuff. I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of legal details. I usually try to finish up my part a little quicker, because I just think it's important for you to get the big picture. The other thing I really want you to consider, what I think you need to consider is, what are you doing in the digital battlefield? General Flynn talks about digital soldiers, and I challenge everybody everywhere I go, how can you be a digital soldier? Because that's where the battlefield is. And I want to show you a little bit about that tonight. I want to talk about that. When I say digital soldier, I'm talking about the battlefields like on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, because if you don't know about it, your kids and your teens sure do, and their friends do. Okay, and of course, I mean, my kids are way more advanced than me at some of that stuff. But we need to establish the battle fighting back against child trafficking and exposing the deep state and what they're doing on these digital platforms, because I guarantee you they're out there with all their bots and with all their AI trying to push it under the rug. And we have to uproot it and expose it and shine the light on it. Okay, next slide. Go on to the next one, please. Okay, so when you scan that QR code, the California Legal Resource Guide comes up, and you can see some of the sections that we have up there. The first is going to be the federal laws. We arranged it according to the federal laws pertaining to trafficking and some of the federal statistics. The second is going to be, and I am going to come down here because my computer went off. The second is going to be the state laws. And the third will be some of the sections we have pertaining, if we could go to the next slide. The third will be some of the sections we have pertaining to national statistics and data. And then fourth, we have state statistics and data. We also have national hotlines and local and state hotlines that you can use to call and report this if you see these child trafficking. Now, I did want to go over some statistics to let you know what you're dealing with, okay? Some of these statistics pertain on the national level. Child pornography, for instance, almost 20 million reports of child trafficking on a national, child pornography on a national level. Extramarital child sexual abuse and exploitation, almost 3,000 reports of this. And we have a lot of these links on this website, and that's what's going to help you. Child sex trafficking, 26,823 reported cases on a national level. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Sorry on the microphone there. Once again, I mentioned the number of states and the reported cyber tip lines reported by each state. There's been about I want to say about a total of 1 million in 2024 from missingkids.org. California ranks among one of the tops. It's about 10% of all the states, of all the complaints or the filed complaints come from California. Next slide. We've got more material up there just showing you some of the pertinent facts. I know it's a little hard to see on these slides. We do try to make them available on the resource guide in some of the states where we can. But in California, there was a comparison of 2021, the number of victims that were reported. There was about 1,334 victims of child sexual crimes reported. Go to the next slide. Some important things too. We try to report major cases and major busts. There is, look, I know you were dealing with more of just a slightly left-leaning state here. I don't know. But here's what I'll say. There are great prosecutors here in certain counties. There are great assistant attorney generals, even though your attorney general may not be the greatest. You will have pockets of them that are doing good work, and that's who you need to be supporting. They need to be encouraged, okay? Because these stories, Operation Bad Barbie led to the arrest of 22 suspects who were exploiting kids, for instance. That's coming from these good assistant attorney generals who are involved in the fight, or local prosecutors. And that's what you need to realize. And you got to be getting involved in your community to identify who they are. For instance, in your county, you can set up meetings with your prosecutors, with your district attorney, or with your assistant district attorney. Feel them out. I had the privilege of going with Mary to meet with the assistant district attorney down in Sarasota, Florida. And let me tell you, if you want somebody to talk to your district attorney, just have Mary talk to them. They will get their act together. She doesn't put up with it. Okay. All right. Next slide. This is a county prevention dashboard. This is all information that's available, that's accessible. We put the websites up here. It's California.gov. Again, it just shows child welfare, child sexual exploitation, the number of cases, and some more statistics. Next slide. Child population versus allegations. The main point I wanted to make about this statistic, in California, involving child sexual exploitation or child welfare endangerment, it's about 49 children per 1,000. So that's a high statistic of children who are being exploited. And that's not just all sexual exploitation on this statistic, but that's a high level number of children that are dealing with this. It also shows in blue the counties where it's heaviest. North California seems to have a problem, quite a problem, especially Northeast California. You see those really, for those of you who can see it, those dark blue states, it's a heavy problem with how children are being treated there. Next slide. This is an example of a story about a California hotel chains who are trying to, who are essentially complicit in child sex trafficking. It's a massive problem in every state. We see it, I won't name the hotels just in case I get them wrong, but there are, you probably heard them in the news, there are several hotel chains where the managers, they know that these children are being used and being brought into these hotels, and they're allowing it to happen. A lot of them are getting kickbacks. A lot of them are saying, or, if they're renting it for the hour, or they're and you can tell when it's a child. You can tell if a girl's 13 or if there's a boy that's 12. You can tell. Well, these guys are like, on a national level, have been essentially closing their eyes to it. It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem in California. They did bust several hotel chains, so that's a good thing. That's something to celebrate, and that's a part too. Something you can do, and we tell people when you're in your community, when you're staying at a hotel, always be alert for that stuff because it happens. It happens in some of the nicest hotels. A lot of these brothels will take the children in, as Baz Tina can tell you. They'll take the children in. They'll take the teens into the nicer hotels. That's where the money is. And if you spot that stuff, it's your duty to basically report it because you got to be thinking about those kids. Let's go to the next slide. Sorry, this is so small. Again, this was another example of some of the allegations that were taking place involving a business relationship between the plaintiffs' traffickers and franchise defendants and the hotels. So I won't go into this one. Let's go to the next one, please. We've got another story local to you guys. 177 human trafficking victims rescued. 547 suspects arrested in California for various charges. So a lot of these stories are coming out of targeted stings with prosecutors and assistant district attorneys who are favorable, who want to stop this problem. And when they bust them, they bust them big. Now, here's one of the things that I found, and that I think Baz will probably attest to. It always seems like they arrest the mid-level or low-level guys, right? You never see the head of the snake on the top cut off. And that's what we're trying to get to. It's like, let's cut the head of the snake off. Let's expose the people at the top, right? Because we know it goes up. It's like a big pyramid scheme. Because when you have that many children being trafficked, I mean, we're talking, now that's human trafficking victims. A lot of those were children as well in that article. It's a systemic problem that is greater than you can imagine. Next slide. Again, this just breaks it down, some more of the details. These particular people, these particular criminals and exploiters were preying on young girls and boys. They had 230 arrests alone in LA County. And we know LA is a hotbed, and hopefully President Trump will send in the National Guard soon. That's just, I don't know. There's probably quite a few counties we need to see that happen in. Let's go to the next slide. Comic-Con. I mean, if your kids ever go to a Comic-Con, like a comic convention, and they dress up, well, there's sex trafficking going on there with minors. Guess what? So you got to have your eyes open to this stuff. It is everywhere. I mean, it's a multi-$100 billion business, and people are really evil. Next slide. And I'm showing you y'all these, and I know you see them on the news, but I want you to get an idea of how prevalent it is and what we're up against here. Okay. This is, okay, like I said, we break down the different sections of the laws. This is Child Protective Services. I'm sorry, not Child Protective Services. This is California Welfare and Instructions Code, California Penal Code, and it talks about child abuse and neglect and the Reporting Act. And so it breaks these things down, and we try to just make it easy as possible at the legal resources, guys, so y'all can just pull this stuff, study it, and really understand it. And then I'll kind of tell you how to use it. Let's go to the next slide. All right, Child Protective Services. I'll show you a statistic here in a second. There's a major problem in CPS in every state. And we know that it's even worse now since we've had the 450,000 minors, unaccompanied minors, brought over from Mexico, because now CPS is overwhelmed even more, and it's by design, right? Because even most of the CPS agents are good, but they couldn't handle the number of kids they had, and the children fall through the system. It's the same thing in California. Children have fallen through the system, and they become prey for the predators. Okay, and they get passed around to certain homes and foster homes, which are either not vetted or they've known for repeat offenders. And we have several cases. I've seen the evidence. I've talked to the victims of this, and victims and families are crying out saying, help us. Nobody believes us, because it's so hard to hold them accountable. And Mary can attest to this personally. So we include all the CPS laws up, and I'm going to tell you what you can do about that. Okay. If you see patterns of ongoing systemic child sexual exploitation in certain CPS offices or foster homes, there's ways to provide analysis along with pertinent records to request a meeting with the Attorney General's office. Okay. So there's things you can do. You can get involved in your local communities. You have a right through public records request to find out that information, and then go sit down with the assistant attorney generals and say, here's the facts, here's the data, here's the systemic issues we're having with CPS and with foster homes. Why are children continually being put back in some of these foster homes? Why is CPS if there's heavy abuse in certain counties, why is CPS not under investigation for that? That's up to you, okay? Because your politicians they're not going to do it. All right, next slide. We also include at the California Legal Resource Guideline or page the national reporting hotline recommendations, of course, Homeland Security, human trafficking line, and the California. We've also got a link to the California Convicted Sex Offender online tool. Let's go to the next slide. That's an important tool because, like General Flynn was saying, you want to see how many sex offenders are around you in your community. These numbers are small, I apologize, but that we have on our website the number to every county in California to call for abuse, to report any kind of abuse or sexual exploitation of children. Let's go to the next slide. And the next slide. Okay, the public sex offender registries. If you were to look within 3 miles of Embrace Church, you will find 193 registered sex offenders within 3 miles of your church. Did you guys know that? If you go a little bit further out circumference and go about 5 miles, you got 241 sex offenders within 5 miles of your church. Okay, so that's just here in your community. And I get it, not every offender is the same, but the vast majority of them are. We have a problem, and it's not just here. We're not picking on you guys. I mean, we got a problem in Northeast Florida where I'm at. Next slide. Public records, I'm not going to bore you with this, but we do have a link that shows you the public records request law for California, and it teaches and basically try to teach you how to do a public records request. Next slide, please. This is the Public Records Act request, which we have a link to for California. This is a California government website. It walks you through how to do a public records request. And the importance of this is, like I was saying earlier, I mean, you can request things like complaints against certain foster homes or certain counties where CPS is. You start requesting that information, you compile that information, you find the statistical data and what's going on, and then all of a sudden you can make a case, to your assistant attorney general, your prosecutor, and point out, hey, these kids keep getting passed around. What's happening to them when they're abused in the foster system and they're just getting shifted to another foster home? How do we know that these particular foster homes, how are they being vetted? How are these people being vetted? Who's vetting the CPS agents? So again, it's a tool that we try to provide on that website. So it's an important website. Next slide, please. Of course, I'm sure you want to call your California attorney
of frontline experience and sacrifice. So, Pastor Sam, I know he's your pastor and you all know him. And you know him a lot better than we do. But we have been very fortunate. We toured today Gabriel's house and also one of the areas where Tony, Pastor Sam's wife, has ministers and to people living here in very poor areas of the city. And so this is important testimony because we all know we live in a very cynical time where 4 years under the last administration, they turned human beings into weapon systems. And I've been on battlefields where they go and collect the landmines that haven't exploded, and they don't have roots in the community, and they don't have families, and they don't bleed, right? And they don't cry, they don't weep, and you don't have to tear apart your whole society in order to remove that weapon. And so we live in a very difficult moment right now where the people who are in power have to deal with this invasion. And you know what? Every country on earth is watching to see how the United States deals with this problem. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. But Pastor Sam has vision and commitment and passion. And so we look forward to talking to you about that. So I want to start with Jason. And I wonder, Jason, if you can just explain to people what the terrorist designation means and why it's significant.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me in the back okay? How's my audio? Fantastic. Listen, it's great to be with you tonight, and thank you for being here. And my sincere, and I mean this, congratulations to all of you, because what President Trump did by designating these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, it is a game changer for you and your families, and I truly, truly mean that. The whole thing of this was about authorities, bottom line. It was not about war ever, not meaning that you can do it, but now we have full spectrum capability to use the full length and scope of national power. And this started as an initiative, as a direct result of one thing, the brutal deaths that were happening that we were working in Texas as the federal government was focused on Middle East terrorist organizations. What we were seeing happening right along the frontera, along our border, were mass murders. I worked the 300 men, women, and children of Allende, the 72 killed in San Fernando by the Zetas because they were so hyper-violent. I could go on, but what had happened was it was very clear that I was a cog in a wheel that was failing. And that if we as a nation didn't focus on this problem, that what we were seeing at the border was coming here. And so that's what this was all about. Now look at what has happened. And I truly mean this. When I tell you that millions of Americans, Mexican citizens, and people from around the world are going to be saved, it's already started based on what President Trump has done. Ladies and gentlemen, I truly mean that. In Mexico, I want to give you hard data here. I just got back from Mexico. I visited privately with two secretaries that directly report with President Sheinbaum, Secretary General over the entire National Defense Forces, General Trevilla. I met with Secretary Harfuch, and I interviewed Secretary Figueroa. Now, why am I telling you that? Because the statistics are stunning. They have dropped homicides in 8 months by 25% in Mexico. It's amazing. And I can tell you that even they are surprised at the sheer level of what has changed. So this terrorism designation not only gave us the authorities, it has given the president the ability to hold accountability, because now he can bring everyone and everything to the table. And I want to close with one thing here to answer Lara's question. It's very important. When you think of the cartels, you have been told they are the drug cartels. Ladies and gentlemen, that changed decades ago. Today, the DEA admits publicly they are in 65 countries around the world. And what has happened in just the last 7 months is absolutely stunning. As the Mexican government and as our government has now focused efforts to go after them, we have stirred the beehive in our hemisphere. And what you need to watch for, what's coming moving forward, is what you are seeing now in Central and South America, because the amount of cocaine pouring into the United States is stunning. This is exactly why President Trump is doing what he's doing in the Pacific. We're leveraging NORTHCOM along with SOUTHCOM to now hold the line down there, because the game and the battlefield has truly changed. And thank God, because now we as Americans have the ability to be protected where we did not before.
And Jason, just explain if you can explain how the cartels are shutting down fentanyl to give Trump a win, but just it's so that you understand when you see, oh, fentanyl, everything's better. No, it's not. These are strategic games that these organizations play. So I want to help people understand what they see in the news.
In Mexico, now I'm about data and intelligence-driven operations. Here's the hard data for you. Mexican government has seized 1,192 labs as of 2 weeks ago. Now, those labs are meth labs. They're not fentanyl. They are seizing fentanyl in Mexico. But when we talk about exactly what she's saying, the fentanyl is now going to Europe, New Zealand, and Australia. And I've been warning those countries, including Europol and Interpol, that they need to be looking for this because this is a tectonic shift of what's taken place. Second, Canada. Listen to the Canadians here, you're our friends, but your government has got to get on the game. Right now, the Hells Angels working with the triad gangs out of China, along with the Mexican cartels, are moving massive amounts of fentanyl into the United States. But and I'm going to tell you, this has put me on my heels. Lara and I were in the back, and we were talking about this. I can't believe, ladies and gentlemen, since 2006, I have been complaining about Mexico. And after visiting with cabinet people, I am put back on my heels as to what has happened in such a short period of time. They are doing, and I can't believe I say this publicly on national news on Newsmax, but I do. And I have to give credit where credit is due. President Trump held them accountable at first with the tariffs, but they themselves have now seen success. And this is why they are doing great work. Next week, I will be embedded with some of their most elite special forces illuminating this, because don't believe anything I ever say. Look at what I show you. That's why we go down there, and that's why we're doing it. But I will tell you, the tripwire moving forward is looking at what Central America is now doing and South American cartels, because it is stunning the amount of cocaine now moving in the Caribbean and up the Pacific.
So you can find Jason's reports on Newsmax if you're interested in following him. He also has an app coming out next week. And I say that because there's nobody better to follow if you really want to see what's happening out there. And also, I just want each person here to understand this didn't come overnight, and it didn't come easily. Jason gave up his career in law enforcement. I mean, he has lived in a trailer down on the border, working day and night. I mean, we worked together. We would work 22-hour days. I mean, this is, when you look at and you think about what can I do, and you don't want to give anything up, I just want to tell you that you can get through that to the point where you actually have made a significant difference and you're now in this position. There were years Jason spent going all over this country, talking to law enforcement, trying to get political figures in law enforcement to understand. He literally gave up everything. His whole life was packed up in containers. You know, and so it doesn't come easily. You don't just arrive at stardom and success. So I just want you to know that if there's something you're passionate about, but you see only darkness ahead, don't be afraid of the dark, because you're never going to reach that light on the other side if you don't do that. Anyway.
Thank you, Lara. Thank you.
Tara, can
Yeah.
you tell people, explain what you mean when you say that the United States government was trafficking children?
Sure. So trafficking is the use of force, fraud, or coercion. And that is, lying essentially to vulnerable children to get them to make the horrible trek from country to country to country, facilitated by the cartels, into our country. And we were footing the bill, meaning your tax dollars were being used, that once these children were lured to our border, they were handed over to our fine Border Patrol agents. And we need to be thankful and grateful that we have people like Jason who've, stood on that line. And once those children were turned over, they were then required to be turned over to the Department of Health and Human Services. It's really important to note that Health and Human Services is not a law enforcement entity. They were not prepared for what was about to happen. So as Lara shared at the beginning of 2021, the Biden administration, they know they have a crisis. They've got thousands and thousands. And by the end of year one, more than 120,000 children had come across the border in just 2021. So they knew they had a crisis. And they said, oh my goodness, how are we going to get enough people to staff? And they said, well, we're going to call the federal government. We know federal employees are vetted every 5 years. And they said, hey, we need people who have Spanish speaking skills. My husband is from El Salvador, so I'm a Spanish speaker. And I thought, I'm going on a mission trip. I was actually in Dallas Seminary at the time. So I was going to Dallas Seminary part-time, their Washington, D.C. campus. And I called them and I said, guess what? I'm going on a mission trip. This is going to be awesome. I am going to the border to help place children in loving homes. This is going to be great. I'm going to sit, I'm going to color, play games. And I did that in the beginning. I have drawings. And what I learned after I started working in case management was that the kids didn't know who they were going to. And I'm like, wait a second, what do you mean the kids don't know who they're going to? And this very first case in June of 2021, and this is the thing that I want everybody to know, they knew they had a crisis in June of
And they were lying about
2021.
it on the media at the time.
Yes, they were totally lying about it. Anybody who thought that there was a thing called child trafficking, oh, that's a myth. It's a myth. The border's secure, they kept saying. Anybody who's saying the border isn't secure, it's a myth. Anybody who's saying there's such a thing as child trafficking, that's a myth. Well, we now know that's not true at all, because more than 400,000 children crossed that border and they don't know where they are. But what we do know, thanks to Aaron Stevenson, we're sitting there processing these cases when we find out they were going to cartel members. And I will never forget that day, because we had cases starting in June. Like, one person had sponsored like 5 or 6 kids, and then we discover, wait a minute, there's 109 kids on this block. How is that happening? How is it that, oh my goodness, they're not DNA testing. They're not finding out who all the adults are in the household. And we would discover there's 4 people in one apartment all sponsoring multiple kids. We're like, how is that possible? I mean, everybody knows you can't just take on 15 children in an apartment, right? That doesn't make any sense. And then they're not related. And then the US government we're not actually seeing the sponsor. Like, we wouldn't see you face to face if you were the sponsor of a child. What happens is the child comes to the border, they've been given a name and number by the cartels, by their smuggler, and that's what the information they give to Border Patrol. Border Patrol gives us that information to HHS, and we just simply pick up the phone and call, hey, you expecting someone? And then we purchase a ticket and sent the child there without ever seeing that person face to face. That is not at all common sense. I mean, I think anybody could see that, right? But then when you have 5 and 6 children going to the same place, it's obvious there's a problem. So we started listening to the stories of the kids. We had this ring in Austin, and we found 4 of these boys. One was at our site, one was at the Pecos emergency intake site that was in Texas. I was right here in Pomona, California. Did you guys know that you had an emergency intake site in Pomona, California? Okay, we processed our site over 8,300 kids in less than 6 months. So you tell me, how much screening and vetting do you think was happening? No DNA testing. Oh, send me a picture of your photo ID over WhatsApp, which they weren't even here legally present. So we were handing the children over to criminal aliens. We were handing them over to MS-13, which is what we discovered from Aaron Stevenson's disclosure in August. So we had been processing all of these cases, turning them in, and the kids were saying, my sponsor said, look, you're only making $2.50 in Guatemala. If you come here, you can work for me for $6 an hour. Not $2.50 a day, but $6 an hour. These children believed they were going to be Elon Musk rich. Remember, trafficking is force, fraud, or coercion. And they tell this story to the children and to their families. And some of the families sign over the mortgages of their houses to pay the smuggling fee that brings the child here, that gives them the name to somebody who they know who's going to put them to work. So modern day slavery is alive and well in the United States of America. And there's over 500,000 children who came across the border. That's just through this one program. That doesn't include all the children that came across in fake family units. The true number of missing children, we believe, eclipses 1 million. When you're looking at the statistical data, we believe more than 1 million foreign children are gone. And then we also know the other children who have been trafficked through CPS, the foster care system, and other things. I'm just here to tell you, there is a war on children, and there is a war on families. Don't forget, when we took those children, we stripped the parental rights of their families. And just listen to how they're attempting to strip your parental rights now. Do not let them go down this road. You cannot give an inch. You have to stand up. And I mean, here in this church and in churches across the country, we have to stand up. We have to protect our families.
Tara, can you tell them what happened when you raised this issue of cartels and criminals sponsoring kids?
Yeah, well, it didn't go too well for me, for those of you who know the story. So when I saw Aaron's disclosure that was sent to one of my team members.
And sorry, just so you know, Aaron was working for USCIS at the time. His job was the transnational criminal list. So just like you have lists of terrorists, these are lists of transnational criminals. And so he started to see codes coming through that he didn't recognize. And then he started to dig into it. And what he found is that, okay, there's a Russian mobster and they're getting a kid, and then there's a guy from 8th Street gang in Guatemala, and now there's a guy from MS-13. And when he looked into it, he was told not to look into it, and so he went on Project Veritas and exposed that, and that was your inspiration, right?
Yeah,
Tara?
so I'm sitting on the Pomona Fairplex and I see a DHS person in the shadows showing an 18th Street gang member sponsoring a kid. And then he talks about how MS-13 and that they were sex trafficking the kids. And my husband being from El Salvador, I know about those gangs. I know what they do. And I just couldn't believe it. And so fortunately, today I'm here speaking in my personal capacity, not on behalf of the federal government, but I have worked for our federal government. I've been a public servant for more than 22 years, most of which, over 19, have been in the Federal Inspector General community, where we combat fraud, waste, and abuse. And so when I saw that the children were going to MS-13, I mean, we had been reporting the entire time. Of course we'd been reporting. There's 323 kids in this place in Houston, Texas. There's 800, kids that these networks tie together. We've got all these kids in Bonita Springs, and they've got properties quitclaimed. They've got LLCs that have kids living in the properties. I mean, what's happening here? I mean, this isn't rocket science. It's just basic fact. But when it came to MS-13, they didn't want that to get out. They didn't want you, the American people, to know that we were luring people to the government. I mean, using government programs, that we were luring children, and that we were sending them to MS-13 members, to 18th
Transporting
Street.
them on behalf of criminals.
Yes. The federal government became a white glove delivery service of children to criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations like MS-13, 18th Street Gang, and other cartels.
And what about the boy that was it in Colorado?
In Ohio?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had children who were going to a known MS-13 affiliate, and Senator Grassley, who truly has been a voice for 10 years over this, but who's been a big help to all of this, released the documents. You can actually see the do not release that I put out. We had a known MS-13 affiliate. Known. And when I reported that, they were like, that's it, man. We have got to get rid of her. This is crazy. We can't let this get out. We can't let the American people know that with their money, we're shipping kids white glove delivery service to the gangs. Can't let that get out. So it took them less than, like 26 days to take me off the case, which they had never done before. So they got me off the case. They assigned it to somebody else. And unbeknownst, see, once you're taken off a case, you don't look at it anymore. Well, unbeknownst to me, 2 days after they took me off the case, which was on the 15th, they then deleted him out of the system of record. So it's as if he didn't exist. And I've had people look into the system of record now, and he still doesn't exist. But he was going to a home that had a known MS-13 affiliate, and the household member, the ID they had was from Sinaloa, Mexico. Now, I'm not saying that they were definitely involved in the cartel, but the MS-13 affiliate worked in a hotel, and her household member is from Sinaloa. So this doesn't take it doesn't take a genius to figure out that something is wrong. So after that, they informed me that I was under investigation. We were in a ballroom that was bigger than this. We had over 250 case managers. One of them is here tonight. Can you raise your hand so we can all see you? Is she here? Yes, there we go. Myra Moreno, bold, brave woman. We worked in a ballroom that was bigger than this, and they actually came in and had me pack up my desk in front of everyone. And as they're walking me off the site, they're telling me I'm under investigation, and I'm like, I'm under investigation? And they're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, do you think I'm going to lose my job? They're like, well, we don't know. How do you like California? Did you get to go to any of the beaches here? I'm like, wait a second. What are you talking about? Under investigation? Because that's the worst thing that can happen to a federal employee, is if you're taken with security off the site where you work. So then we get to the gate where I badge in and badge out every day. And then they said, oh, well, we'll take that. And they took my badge. So it was not a fun day, but I knew I had done the right thing. And thankfully, I had reported through the Office of Inspector General before. They had me on recorded interviews before I was off the site. I want to make sure that everybody knows, it was a group effort. God helped in this whole thing, and he made sure that I had people there. Remember, I thought I was going to color and play games, and I'm glad I didn't know what I was walking into, because I probably would have been too scared. I'm just going to be honest.
And then, Tara, there was that case, was it Colorado, where the kid was murdered?
Oh, okay. So yes. So even though we kept saying kids are going to MS-13, kids are going to 18th Street Gang, I'm testifying to this before Congress, everybody's like, it's a myth, not true, not happening, don't believe Tara, this isn't true. Aaron, we fired him, nope, don't believe any of that, until very recently, they found a child who had been actually sponsored by a house with MS-13 members, and the child was found dead with their underwear around their ankles, and a person passed out next to him. And they were warned not to send the child to this home because there were MS-13 affiliates there. And, my question to you is, how many other kids are out there? If you don't go, nobody's coming. I'm just here to tell you, there is no way you could have convinced me that 4 years later I'd be sitting on a stage trying to tell people kids are being trafficked, kids need your help. But if we don't stand up, nobody is coming. Now, thankfully, with the new president, they've put some great things in place, right? DNA testing, if you're going to be a sponsor, imagine that. We want to know who's in the household. We want fingerprints of the people in the household. Are they a pedophile? Guess what? No children are going there. So if a child has reported being in one of these NGOs that has molested children, guess what? Kids don't go there anymore. So they're trying to, work at it at multiple angles so that they can take money away from the NGOs, which needs to happen in order to defeat the trafficking networks.
But one of the most important things is for you not to sit back and say, okay, well, now the government's got this, right?
Nope.
Because the government is filled with operatives who are working and committed to subverting President Trump. They're here to stall his agenda and wait it out. And the moment you take the pressure off, it all slides back. Like you can't take the pressure off. And that's why we need people like Tina, because Tina and Baz are on the front line of this. So Tina, can you explain from your perspective what you're seeing today? Because I know that you have been shocked at what's coming to light.
Yes, so I've been rescuing children, underage girls primarily, out of sex trafficking for over 10 years. Southern California was where I spent most of the time working there. I met Baz there. He runs Association for the Recovery of Children, founder. And we began working together on what I called hardcore cases. The goal for me was to get the kids that no one else could find, right? And he's former CIA. You'll meet him in a minute. But that was his thing too. If there are kids out there that no one can find and the police aren't doing it and the government agencies aren't doing it, those are the kids that we're going to go find and retrieve. And so I had asked God always, send me to the most lost, because I don't want the ones that other people can get. I want to do the job that no one else will do. So that's what started. And these are people like that. And this is a person like that. The thing that 100 out of 100 people, 99 will tell you it can't be done. You're the one that says, yes, watch me, and go do it. Here am I, send me. And that's what Boone Cutler has that on his arms. But anyway, that's who's up here. It's the people who say, here am I, send me. There's no, I'll do it. So that led me down a path where I was out to pursue the most lost and who was trafficking. So at first it was like easy pickings, girls in prostitution and, predictable. Then it was like, no, gangs are trafficking. So I started rescuing girls out of gangs. Then it was like, no, cartels are running the gangs. So now I was rescuing girls out of cartels. It was super crazy dangerous, right? If you take our course, I'll tell you how we did it. But Baz was working with me in that, training me how to do this without being killed, how to do that without the kids being killed. But we were cranking it. There was one year I rescued 50 from. It's really God. It's really God in so many ways. It's God, right? But he needs someone to be the arms and the legs. He needs someone to drive the car. And so that is where we were. So then here's the shock. The deeper we get into this, pursuing the most lost, the more I realize who's trafficking are people that are the good guys. This is what's horrifying. It's not just the gangs and the cartels who are known bad guys. It's churches. It's corrupt officials. It's law enforcement. It's government agencies. This was the thing that just made me horrified. And I started to tell people the good guys are the bad guys and the bad guys are the bad guys, right? It's a fight in all directions. Now, and Baz and I, we journeyed on this. Now, he knew a lot about government operations that I didn't know, but we made this journey. Okay, so let's say it is a fight in all directions. Let's say that all systems are designed to fail at protecting children. What are we going to do about it? And we did start to train. And so that's something we do now. Baz will tell you about that, because it's the public eyes and ears that make the difference in this. But I have to warn you, this is the shocker that we're seeing right now. I mean, things I never thought I would see. When you start to disrupt somebody's industry, right? And in this case, it's torturing, abusing, using children for power, money. Some for pleasure, but it's actually more about power and money. It's more about dehumanizing another human being. And now we started to see cults, satanic cults. Now, we had seen satanic ritually abused kids. Back when I started 10 years ago, it was like 25% of our cases were SRA, satanic ritual abuse, meaning these kids had been subjected to rape and torture, murdering other children as part of satanic rituals or Luciferian rituals. But then we have now started to see that those cults are inside churches, right? Christian churches. So this is horrifying. The good guys are the bad guys, right? Not all the good guys, but inside every pocket of good guys, this is where the most nefarious are hiding. Right. Now, as you disrupt their game, you know who you're dealing with based on who comes after you. So and I learned this working cartels and gangs, I was running undercover and I had decoys, which are digital decoys, doing my dirty work. When I saw the enemy react, I knew who I was dealing with based on the attack, the counterattack. Our counterattacks right now are coming from the highest levels of government. And
Such as who?
I can't name them. I can't. My husband's sitting right there. You can ask him. No,
I
Okay.
will.
ask him. But whatever.
Baz,
I said this
let's
backstage.
talk later.
If I tell Laura before the interview not to ask me certain things, that is the question she's going to ask me in front of everybody. But you know what? That's why she's so good. She's like, oh, because she wants you to know. She wants you to know. Now, I will say, and I'm going to second what Jason and what Tara have already said. We are in a period of favor with the Trump administration. When I talk to my husband and I and all the people that are involved in rescuing kids and rehabilitating kids, we are pedal to the metal. We're doing more, faster, harder work than we've done before because we have a clear path, right? We have support, we have favor. That is not to say that all the evil has been rooted out, because the mess is everywhere. And like Laura said, it's a mess. Sorting the evil and the good, I don't know, it's way messier than we thought it was. However, we have at the top of the chain, we have a commander-in-chief who says, go do this, and this is right, and he's not afraid. And so this is a period of favor, and I hope that we can extend this favor as long as possible by educating people like all of you, telling people this is a move in the right direction. Stand up, just like Tara said. The attack is on the family. The attack is on the family to destroy the identity of the child. This is what I just sound the alarm all the time. Protect the family unit. If a child has a family unit, they have love and belonging, hopefully. Hopefully. If you have unhealthy families, shore them up. Don't snatch the kid, fix the family, right? Because what the enemy wants, what all the exploitative children want, is a dehumanized physical body that they can abuse and order and command and send and retract and do anything they want to this human body without resistance, because there's no soul anymore. And we've seen those kids, and it's the most heartbreaking thing. They're empty. There's nothing, there's no one home. But don't be discouraged, because those kids, remember I said I was sent to the most lost. I was rescuing these girls that no recovery program would accept, because when they went in to do their intake interview, the intake interviewers said, this one's beyond help. And I had 6 girls rejected in 1 month because they told me these girls are beyond help. Really, really, there is no such thing.
So this is the thing about what Tina and Baz have evolved into doing, is giving you the tools. If you're passionate about this and you want to do something, they can help give you the tools of how to do that. Baz will explain a little bit of it, but that's part of the training tomorrow. But they also have their own training course that
Yes.
you can learn more about that from them. Tina, can you just quickly talk about the role of the satanic component to this?
Okay, so the satanic component is the top of the hierarchy of evil, okay? Everybody that abuses kids is evil. You can't do it. And you know this. Like, I have people come and tell me, like, how could somebody possibly do that? Yeah, they do. They do. I can't explain it. I never in the fiber of my being could I imagine hurting a child. And yet people hunger and thirst for it. Why? Because there's evil power. Now, that is the one thing that all of them have in common. Now, there are abusers who were abused, okay? But they have seen violence and abuse as power. This violence and abuse was done to me when I wasn't strong enough. Now that I'm strong enough, I will do this, because this is what violence and power does. It abuses and belittles other people. And so this system has been at play for generations, centuries, maybe since the dawn of mankind. But Satan is the author of it. Now, the more sophisticated you get, the higher level sophistication of the enemy, you're going to get higher level cult practices. We're talking mind control programs that have been around for decades, where they've taken people that are experts at torture. And again, the goal is to dehumanize. The goal is to take the soul. And guess what? The devil wants to do? Destroy God's creation. Make sure that these kids never get to heaven. So the devil is out to rob the soul, and he uses people who are twisted and warped in any number of ways to take the soul. And they try to do that. But guess what? God still has a soul, right? God is stronger than all of this. Satan can't do it. He can't do it, but he'll do everything he can to make you believe it. But at the top of the chain in everything, elite pedophilia, heads of state who are, child hunting parties, cults that are inside churches or satanic temples. What are they after? They're after getting power from Satan, pleasing Satan, so all of it points to Satan, all of it points to Satan, but God is more powerful. And this is the thing about, if you raise your children in the knowledge of their identity with you, as you are a member of this family and your love and belonging is with me, your mother, and with your father, right? They won't buy a counterfeit. They won't believe a counterfeit. And if they believe that their soul belongs to Jesus and their soul belongs to God, they are impermeable to these lies that the devil will try to throw.
Pastor Sam, you probably think I'm going to ask you an easy question about all that good work that you're doing, but I'm not.
Okay.
I'll get there.
All
I'll get
right.
there, but how many of you are familiar with all the amazing things that Pastor Sam and Tony are doing? Okay.
Thank you.
So, but my question for you is this something that has troubled me for a long time, and maybe troubles some people here. Tina and Baz rescue kids who've been raped over and over and over again and tortured. I interviewed somebody just recently, it hasn't been released yet, and he was talking to me about the kids that are designated for the porn industry,
Right.
and those that go to the snuff films. And I was like, oh my gosh, the snuff films. And he said, oh no, he said, the kids that go to the snuff films are the lucky ones because they die quickly. And I wonder, and I just want to ask you, where is God in that? When you're a child crying out to God every day, and every day that monster comes back, and it's a new monster, and they do terrible things to you, and they do it until you die. What is that from God's perspective?
That is the tyranny of free will. And it's this, and this is why God is calling his people. It's interesting, when bad things happen, a lot of people blame God. What we really need to blame is the human race and what we have allowed to happen. One of the most powerful gifts God gives us when he created us is free will. And he does that because he doesn't want robots to love him. He knows that if we choose to love him, that's a more genuine love. And this goes back to creation and the fall of man, that in order to have free will, you have to have two choices. And this comes back to what happened in the garden. And it's the same battle that we have today. And so where is God? God is in people like us up here. God is in people like myself and people out there that are putting us into the army. Because when he created man, he said, subdue the earth and multiply. He said, everything that happens on the earth, I'm going to do through man. And God is perfect, right? And that's why he had to become a man to solve our sin problem. He could have just done that from heaven and just poof, made everybody right. And it is why we cannot sit on the sidelines. We are his plan A. There's no plan B. When Jesus says, you are the light of the world, not a light, you are the light of the world, the greatest miracle that we can experience is the miracle of getting out of the boat, walking in boldness and going and doing something for him. All we need to do is take a step, and each step becomes a supernatural miracle of God to do something we never could imagine he could do. He is waiting for his people to step in, to shine his light brightly. That's where he is.
But what about the child? I mean, they didn't choose that. They didn't.
No, the
set
child
their
didn't
free will.
choose that. And I will tell you that God hates when people violate children. And God, man, a God-fearing person, those people that do that will suffer his wrath. He says, he says, I will not be mocked. Whatever you reap, whatever you sow, you will reap. They will suffer the wrath of God and the torment of God like you cannot imagine. And so that's where God is on that side of the equation, and why organizations like this and the work that we do is so important. He is waiting for us to stand in that Isaiah moment. Who will go for me?
Well, this is it.
If this is it, and it is us. And when we step into that, we will see God do miracles. And it is the story of humanity. And it is a story that is now put in our laps. We are the ones. This is the generation that God is calling to rescue these kids.
So you and Tony, you decided you weren't a pastor all your life. You had
Right.
another life before
Yes.
that. Very
Yes.
successful in business, and then you chose this. And over
Yes.
the years, you have worked with the homeless.
Correct.
And you have worked with a lot of girls who are trafficked, rescuing girls and their families. I just wonder what you learned that you didn't expect to learn along the way.
There's so many things that we learned. The first thing is what can be done in a city if a local community stands up and takes action. We're always looking for somebody else to do the work. Well, when is the federal government going to come here and clean this mess up, right? And the first thing I learned is how powerful God can work in your yes. So here we were a church of 20 people in Midtown Ventura. And what could we possibly do, right? We're a little church. And, and I'm so tired of small churches that say, well, we're too small to do anything. Over 90% of the churches are under 100? And that's the army, right? And so we're a little church of 20 people. And there was a homeless problem in the city of Ventura. And, and the mayor of the city, churches, can you please help, right? With our homeless challenge. And so we decided, why not us? And so we started this ministry called Operation Embrace. We opened up our doors, and we did a daily chapel service, and we let the homeless come. And there's several of the people here that are part of that. And it turned into this miracle of God where the homeless would come to church, and we would treat them like we'd want to be treated. And so we let them have the decency of using a real bathroom, in the decency of a shower, in the decency of doing their laundry. Homeless do laundry, by the way, just in case you forgot that. And then we would give them clothes, and it turned into this ministry. And so here we are, a church of 20 people, and we're caring for, it was 30, then 40, then 50, then 60 every day, feeding them 2 meals a day. Well, how did that happen? It was a miracle of God. And I kept realizing that God would use our yes beyond our ability. And all of a sudden one day, this young lady comes in early in the morning, because it was Monday to Friday from 8:30 to 2:30. We would let the homeless in and rest. We would have a daily chapel service and feed them and care for them. And this young girl comes in, and it was clear she was being prostituted, and her face was all smudged, and she was bruised, and she was exhausted. And I came over and I looked at her and go, oh my, it must be 14 years old. So here we are in the city of Ventura, a little church, right? And we have this homeless outreach in our church, and they're in our church. And so I talked to some of our ladies, and I said, we had these little cards that invited the homeless to come. Take these cards to these ladies every night and invite them to come to our church in the morning. So they went on the streets wherever there were 12 brothels, 12 massage parlors in Ventura, and they were trafficking all these young girls. And nobody was doing anything in the city. Not a church, nobody was doing anything. So we would simply go on the streets, we'd find them and give them a card. Hey, when you get off work, come and rest at the harbor. So they would come and we would start to minister to them. And then we worked with a larger ministry in LA and we would start rescuing them one at a time. Now, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. All I knew was that this lady needed to be rescued, this young girl. And we're starting to rescue, before you know it, there was over 24 of these trafficked young girls we were rescuing. And we were sending, yeah. And this is the point. Imagine what we can do if every community started to just step in and actually did something, not talk about it or complain about it. So we just started to do something. And I wrote a book about the journey. It's called A Love That Nobody Wants, and you can get it on Amazon. And it's an incredible story of how we were literally stopping the sex trafficking trade in the city of Ventura. A little church, it was called the Little Big Church, and we grew to 50 people, woohoo! And half of them were homeless. And we were literally single-handedly stopping the sex traffic trade in the city of Ventura. And that's what you can do.
I know General Flynn loves this because local action, national impact, right? That's what we're talking about right here. But it is true. Imagine if you're the caseworker that keeps quiet because you don't want to lose your job.
Right.
Like if everyone is like that, we don't know what we learned from Tara. So you have to decide which kind of caseworker are you? Are you the one that looks away when you have a little boy 12 years old in diapers because he's been raped so many times on the journey and you don't want to risk your job, right? And not everybody can. It's true, but there's something you can do. You can figure it out. Jason, I wonder if you could talk to people. I know one of the challenges you've dealt with over the years is that people looked at Mexico and said, that's a problem that's over there. Pastor Sam and I talked today about how corrupt the city is and how involved the city is in all of this. And Tina talked about how it went from the bad guys all the way up to the good guys, right? Which are your city officials, your state representatives, and so on. So you and I have talked before about the corruption piece. I think people would love to hear about how that's been imported from Mexico.
Sure. It's been such an interesting journey on this. When I was still in law enforcement and I was screaming at the top of my lungs. That's actually at General. We were doing anything we could at the state level to try to illuminate what was happening to us at the local level, all the way up to the U.S. intelligence agencies. That's how we met at the DIA when he was over it. And we would go from agency to agency, and here's what they would tell me. Jason, we want you to know that we see it in the classified reporting. We hear you. We want you to know you hear you. But as long as it stays in Mexico. Now, as they're saying that, it's not in Mexico anymore. And what I realized is they were so far behind what was happening to us on the ground. And corruption is a big part of it. In Mexico, what they do there, they conduct mirroring operations here. So just like the stealing of oil that you see in Mexico, right now in Texas, just in the last 7 months, it's stunning how fast these criminal organizations will move. They're now stealing between $200 and $300 million a year from what we call now black gold, taking oil in Texas, taking it back to Mexico. And corruption is the same. And I'll tell you a great story. The Gulf cartel used to use an individual they called the commander. They put him in a beautiful place just outside of Mission, Texas. It's this big mansion. And his job was to go around and meet with all local officials, start locally, just like they do in Mexico. And this is what he would do. And he would hold parties. He would give large amounts of money. told it's always that whole, you've got a supply and demand issue, right? And if
You have a drug problem
That's
because
right.
you love to use
that
drugs.
is that
You
has been a
created the
lie
problem.
from the start, ladies and gentlemen. You have to create that problem. So this is why they start going up and changing. And it's not just in drugs. We can also look at it in weaponry. They have to have a better thing than the other cartel because their fear is that they'll make more money and then their rival will come in and take them out. This is why the escalation, the only way to stop it was to get the terrorism designation and go after these savages and stop treating them as kind as we were. And look, I'm very clear on this. I don't want to be the best cartel guy. I want to hunt them down like the dogs they are and treat them like what they are. And we have done that through the terrorism designation. But I will say, to answer your question specifically on this, I've always said this was fixable and that when we got this terrorism designation, we were going to see significant changes, that this was the tripwire. Ladies and gentlemen, it's happened. It is happening right now and the transition is taking place.
Tara, I wonder if you can speak to, you have testified now many times in the Senate. You work closely with Senator Grassley's office. I know that you'll work with anyone. It's not a Democrat Republican thing for you at all. It shouldn't be for any of us. But can you speak to the cover-up? Because there were a number of things that the last administration did. Once the trafficking was exposed and you were speaking up and Aaron was speaking up and others, they took measures not to address and fix the situation. They took measures to cover it
and Exploited, which came out in 23, which did reveal that 85,000 children were gone. And that was Hannah Dreier at the New York Times in 2023. They finally admitted, right? But they created the problem. And debt bondage. That was 4 years ago today. Where's that child now? What's happening to that child? These things the Biden administration absolutely ignored. And they are in the hands of criminals. We know that. Small group of people landed at the Pomona Fairplex thinking I was going to be coloring and doing puzzles. I never imagined that I would be here.
Tina, you said that some of these girls are just dead, but that no one is beyond saving. How do you reach them? What do you do?
Yes, and we're out of time, I can tell.
I don't know who that guy is. Somebody
yeah.
call the police.
Yeah.
911.
Someone's
Anyone.
going to call security very quickly. It's connecting to their true self. Okay. So just to give it you a snapshot, when I meet one of these, any victim in their situation, I ask them, when was the last time that you were yourself without anger and without fear? Now I wouldn't want to be asked that question. When was the last time you were yourself without anger and without fear? And you get the wildest answers, but I've had kids say, right now with you. They never felt themselves without anger and without fear. But the point before the fear and before the anger was the true self, right? Before it was disrupted. So I always try to get to that point. And if they can tell me, and I always say, like, give me one happy day, one happy day, one happy thing that you did, right? When I connect to that one happy thing and they're like, yeah, I didn't have fear and I didn't have anger and I felt, who are you? What were you? And we explore, and I'm getting them to simulate that memory and so that every spark in their brain starts to fire. That, what did you like? What color did you like? Was the carpet soft, or was it, like I'm simulating that moment. When I see the light come on, I've connected to the true self. And then I tell them, that's you. That's you. Let's draw a straight line from there to who you are tomorrow. Because everything that happened to you in between was not you. It was what happened to you. It was what was told, is what people told you were. So that's just a very simple answer.
Okay. Pastor Sam, what do you need? Like, you do it, what you've built at Gabriel's house, incredible.
Yes.
What you and Tony have done in the community, bringing people to God, extraordinary. So what do you need to go beyond where you are now?
No, I really appreciate that. We have a table out there. Tammy, our director's there at Gabriel's house. Anything you can do to support our Gabriel's house, because we've helped over 1,200 women and children doing these kinds of things that you speak about. The other thing is we have quite an outreach to the migrant community. These are the merit-based field workers that have been here for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And, we need your prayers, because we're right in the middle of this immigration crisis. And there's a whole nother part of this that they are victims as well. And, it is incredible how these cartels and how these people are doing everything to stop our great ICE agents and President Trump from extracting these evil people from the land. So we need your prayers and we need your support. There's a table out there. I'm running for Congress, so if you'd like to get involved with that, we need your help. We need your support. We're doing all we can
Get
to
this
solve
man
this problem.
elected.
Thank you.
So I know that time is up. I want to say one thing. This is, I think you hear and you grasp, this is a moment of opportunity, right? This is a chance to actually really do something meaningful to stop this from happening. But it's not just going to happen without everybody playing their part. And when I listen to that, what it means to me personally, and this may be something that is so far beyond anything you can imagine, but for me, it makes perfect sense. When I was working for 60 Minutes in Egypt and I was being attacked and gang raped and sodomized and beaten, I couldn't, at a certain point, I couldn't breathe because these crazy, maniacal people steal not just your dignity and and all the other things they're taking from you, but they physically steal the oxygen from the air. In a breathe, thankfully, is that because I reached a point where I knew I was dying from lack of oxygen, and it's so hot in that space. And so when I fell and I couldn't get down, couldn't get up again because there were so many of them on me, and I was dragged into a part of that square in Egypt where there were women and children, and so the men jumped up to defend them. And the first thing that happened was I felt air on my skin because I was naked and I could breathe. But that mob was literally not as far as where Mary is right now from me. In fact, they were where Kyle is. And I thought I was speaking, but I was screeching and nobody could understand me. And all I knew was that I had accepted my death. And in this moment, I had a chance and I couldn't bear the thought of going back. And that's what I want to say to you. That space, on that feeling that I remember to this day of the air on my skin, that's the moment we have right now where we can breathe. Because we were not breathing. When children are being raped and trafficked at that level, and satanic ritual abuse is rising throughout our community, and technology is being used to proliferate all of this, we're not breathing. We're dying because God is looking down at us and he's like, they're killing themselves, and I can't help because they haven't chosen me. So we have one single moment where that air is on our skin and we can breathe and we have life and we have the ability. I would urge all of you, don't look at this as a burden. You've been given a gift. Your opportunity to do something right now is a gift. Take it, grasp it with everything you have. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Boone. It's over to you. No, over to who? Oh, Baz. Damn it, Baz. I was supposed to hand over to you. Sorry. Oops. Okay. And now, ladies and gentlemen, my friend of many, many years, we were incredibly in Angola together when I was 19 years old and I'm 54. This extraordinary man who we forgive him for being part of the intelligence community, that horrible agency that's doing so much to destroy our country. There are good guys, and he is one of them. And Baz was in Mogadishu during Black Hawk Down, and he was on his way out of the country, and he saw a child by the side of the road, and he knew something wasn't right. And that child became the first one that he rescued all the way back then. So I love him. He's an extraordinary man, and I leave you in his capable hands.
Thanks, Laura. Well, did you know, of course, and these numbers fluctuate, and I think you've heard enough about them tonight, that depending on who's counting, we now have close to 500,000 plus missing unaccompanied alien children, and not to mention, and let's not forget this, the other 400,000 plus American children that were missing last year as well. Wow, that's big. Does that tear at your heart? You know what, let me see a show of hands from everyone in here if that's concerning to you. Let me ask you a question. What if it was just one child? Just one in America. Just one. Would you care as much? You see, we define success in child rescues as one child at a time, and every single child counts. Now, society isn't generally motivated to do something about the issues like missing, exploited, and sex trafficked children unless we feel it's worth our while, and it's generally not worth our while unless we have huge numbers. And that's not how it's supposed to happen. I can assure you that from the standpoint of America's future, every single child counts. If you're waiting until you have 100 children missing in your community here, and you're not doing something about it, then guess what? You're part of the problem. Don't be a part of the problem. Be a part of the solution. Now, when it comes to the children of our world, I don't care who you are. You hurt our children, and we'll break through any wall, any line, and any army to get to you. 1,000 shields and 100 men. It won't stop us. We'll bring fire and fury until there's nothing left standing between us. Our blood is our legacy, our heart beating outside of our chest. So understand this, if you mess with our children, you'll face a storm that will never stop. There'll be no warning. There will be absolutely no mercy. Just a promise that you'll regret the day that you crossed us here at America's Future. We protect what is ours with everything we are. Because with our children, we will be relentless. We will be unstoppable. And in the end, you will see the force of our love is a battle you can never win. So let me ask you today, is that how all of you feel in here? After 30 years of being in the trenches fighting child sex trafficking, all those who know me can confirm that I don't sugarcoat anything when it comes to this issue. I live by a code of conduct planted by the seeds of God from my ancestors from the United States Marine Corps and our founding fathers of this great nation, who I am certain would want every child in this country to go unharmed. I'm pretty transparent to a fault, and I don't have any hidden agendas, as most of my friends will confirm. So today, we have pointed out the reality of this issue known as trafficking in America, and why it is important for each of us to get in the fight and do more than just dress up and attend a wonderful gathering to pretend we care. If you don't care about enslaved children, you're probably at the wrong event. But perhaps that might be a little too harsh. So I'd ask you to forgive me, because perhaps there are some people in here who don't know the issue well enough to know why they should care. And that's fair. So allow me to provide you with an opportunity to learn more by coming alongside of America's Future and the members of our team who believe it's a non-negotiable when it comes to the reputation, the welfare, and the future of the state of California. Because this is your state. And if you do not take care of it, then who will? So let me start by defining child sex trafficking. That word is so common that most people don't even blink an eye when myself or Mary Flynn O'Neill or General Flynn or Tina or the panel up here speak about it. It doesn't really affect people. So let me tell you what it really is. It's the 7-year-old girl chained to the floor of a closet with cigarette burns all over her body, who hasn't been fed in days and yet raped 15 times a day by both male and female predators, with so many STDs that she will be lucky if she lives to be 12 years old. And that is happening in our country, and it is happening in your community and in this state here in California and all over the United States. This is not just trafficking. This is crimes against children. Let me say that one more time. This is crimes against children, and we have to start looking at it that way. So let me ask you, how do you murder a child without killing them? Does anybody know? It's a simple answer. You sexually exploit them. And if they grow up to be an adult, they die every single day of their life. Now, sitting in this audience here is an entire army of God's chosen people to do this work. If you only get involved and realize that God has not given you a spirit of fear. You're a force to be reckoned with in an age where Satan will flee if you fight. In an age where the lives of God's most precious children hang in the balance. And guess what? In an age to which each of you was born. If you wish to be great, commit to something greater than yourself. Whatever it is you intend to be great at, it must have such a priority in your life that you will stop at nothing to achieve it. It must be more than just a good idea or a nice thing to do. It must be a calling. And you'll know the difference because there will be a gnawing at your soul that will not go away. And that what you're about to accomplish must be done at all costs, even at the expense of your own comfort, and in the most extreme cases, the cost of your life. And in that process, face off trained mind obstacle becomes a hardship. Trained mind effective is not bringing children home. How many people remember the picture of the missing kid on the milk carton? Remember that? So what did we do? Every morning when you poured that into your coffee or your cereal, you looked at the picture of the missing kid and you felt good that you were doing something by looking at the picture of the missing kid on the milk carton. And for a whole week, you felt time you poured that milk, you were doing what the absolutely not. The fact is, a child does not come home until there are boots on the ground that physically go into the evil, get their hands on that kid, and bring them home. So for all of you in this community, remember this. The protection of all Americans, it's your duty. It is your duty as a fellow American to protect other Americans. Now, the hearing and the reading of this trafficking issue tonight will be useful, but if men and women rest in hearing and praying, as so many do, it's as if a tree should value itself for being watered and putting forth leaves, and yet it never produces fruit. When did we allow evil to become stronger than us? You hear that? When did we allow evil to become stronger than us? It isn't that evil is more powerful. We allowed it to become stronger than us. For the love of the children that are missing in our country, please take your rightful place as citizens who are ready to follow in the footsteps of our founding fathers and take back your communities so that no harm will ever come to a child. Stand firm in the face of evil with a plan of action that shows the world that we fall where we stand and will not yield, and all who live in darkness will be made. The resolve of we the people. So So what can each of us in this room do about this issue? How can you send a message to the world that no harm will come to the children of California? Here's 12 things that I'm going to leave you with, a call to action so that you can get in the fight. Number one, can you change that for me? Thanks. Pass the death penalty. For anybody who traffics and rapes a child, because that's what it is. It's paid rape. I don't care if you're a predator outside the family or a mother or a father or a relative within the family. We handle cases where parents sexually exploit their own children and sell them into trafficking more than you can even imagine. Now, I can hear there's somebody in the audience that's probably saying, well, maybe the predator was molested and he or she can't help themselves. Please, do me a favor. Stop making excuses for crimes against children. There's no place for that liberal bunch of malarkey in here. Well, GF, I didn't say BS, but there you go. My step-grandfather was a horrible alcoholic. That wasn't an excuse for me becoming one. We all have choices in life. You send a strong message to predators and they'll think twice about committing this crime. And I know that for a fact because every pedophile that I ever interviewed behind bars and asked them, what is the one thing that would have deterred you from raping that little boy or that little girl? Almost every one of them said in one word or one fashion or another, if I thought I was going to get the death penalty, I probably wouldn't have done it, but I'm in for 7 and I'm going to be out in 3. Let me be very clear on this so you know exactly what we're dealing with and who we're dealing with. There is a difference, and I get challenged on this a lot because people go, well, you're a man of faith. You should have some compassion. They don't call me the patron saint of missing kids anymore, do they? There's a difference between sinners and the wicked. God provides repentance for sinners, but it's clear that he hates the wicked, and he states he will destroy the wicked. So child predators are in the wicked category in my book. And guess what? I think that's in his book too. And I believe that's when Jesus said it is better that a millstone be put around a man's neck and he be drowned in the sea. I believe the Hebrew translation for that is you die. And while you're at it, we talked about passing a grooming bill in the state of California, as they did in Florida. Do that as well. Number 2, get trained so you understand the area of operation. We call it the AO. Victimology, cartels, how trafficking works, signs of someone being trafficked, exercising your constitutional rights, how do you intervene, running rescue operations, use of tradecraft so you stay alive against the cartel. Learn how to start your own non-government organization, an NGO, we refer to it. Know what your liabilities are, everything we actually teach in the 6-day Fight Child Trafficking equipping course. And you can find that if you go to www.recoveryofchildren.com. It'll tell you what the curriculum is and how you can sign up for that course. Number 3, please. Thank you. Begin your own rescue organization here in your community and vet the existing rescue organizations to see if they're qualified and capable of saving children. Build out that relationship and maintain oversight. I cannot tell you how many. And because we're one of the oldest running NGOs in the United States, we have the opportunity to go behind the veil and see who is actually doing what they're saying they're doing. And I say probably 30% in America are doing something, and the other 70% are all taking money from the government, and they're claiming that we have 40 beds when they have 4 beds, or they're come up with something like, we rescued 4,000 children this year. Let me explain something to you. Just as a common sense thing. I've been doing this for 34 years. Sometimes it will take you a whole month to find one kid that constantly gets transferred from one predator to another. And someone wants me to believe that they're rescuing 4,000 kids with 7 people in their organization? I don't think so. So run oversight on these organizations and make sure they're doing what they say they're doing. Number 4, please, vet your local law enforcement to see if they're qualified and capable of saving children. Number 5, create a community policing program between yourself and your law enforcement partners. And if they do not have the bandwidth to do this, then you need to be prepared to go out and run operations legally yourself. And that's what we'll teach you to do in that course. Most police departments, as we've mentioned, don't receive enough training or the proper training to understand the intricacies of child sex trafficking. Most don't have a budget to do what we ask them to do on our streets today. And given the plethora of crimes that they fight daily, they're lucky if they even get to see their family sometimes within the week. And yes, I know they work for us as citizens, but here's what I'm asking you. There has to be a little take and give on each side, okay? So I'm asking you to make an effort to establish a good relationship with your law enforcement partners to see how you can be of help to one another when it comes to this issue of child sex trafficking. Number 6, you need to create a call center that operates 24/7. And you can send so that you can send intelligence to the law enforcement entity who are part of your community policing program in your community, or to an organization or an NGO that you know can react to that. Number 7, you need to create a safe house system where you or another vetted NGO can take your victims as you're lining them up for extended operations or coordinating with the service provider. There's some places around America, such as the Well House Project in Alabama with John and Carolyn Potter. And there's also Christy Wells in Washington, D.C., who runs the Safe House Project. And she actually certifies and supervises a number of facilities across America to make sure that they are good aftercare, good wraparound facilities. Number 8, ensure you have a solid relationship with a vetted aftercare provider and that you do a deep dive on who they are, making sure they're in line with the rescue protocols and they do what they claim they do. They do what they claim they're doing also. Number 9, this is the most important part. Don't brag. Stay out of the media. Focus on the mission of saving children. Certainly, it's okay to show your progress in a year-end report by posting something on social media. Every time you complete a rescue, don't run out there telling people how you did the rescue. The bad guys are watching. They're listening, okay? It's a one-trick pony. It won't work the next time. The bad actors really want to study your tradecraft. Please remember this. If you don't remember anything else we told you tonight, please remember this. This is not about you. This is about them, okay? Number 10, institutionalize an anti-trafficking training awareness program in elementary and high schools. I cannot tell you how many times the doors shut on us when we go to a high school to say, let us talk to your students about child sex trafficking or sex trafficking and what you as teachers and what students can do to prevent that. And I still haven't cracked that nut. I don't know why they're so resistant to it, but it's across the board, all throughout America. They just shut the doors on you. They don't want to hear about it. And it's not because it's too ugly. I'll tell you what I think it is instinctively after 34 years. I think it's because we got a bunch of pedophiles in the schools. Number 11, we've learned that keeping people engaged relates to how they define success and how they achieve a sense that they can make a difference. Approach the issue by defining success, as I mentioned, one life at a time. The impact of direct action that diverts even one person from being trafficked tends to be the deep-seated motivator for most communities. I don't want to be the one to handle this to you, but you need to know this, and I need to put this in cement for you. We are never going to stop child sex trafficking. And anybody that tells you we will has not been in the trenches long enough. That's God's job when he comes back. Because we get to look behind the veil, and it's big. It's like as big as 100 Goliaths, okay? But what your responsibility is to do what you can to take the biggest bite out of it that you can on your watch while you're here on this earth, okay? That's your responsibility. Because God's not going to ask you, how come you didn't rescue 500,000 kids? He's going to go, what did you do with what I gave you? That's what he's going to ask. And finally, number 12. If you're not getting the results you did not work for, then do not complain. Don't sit here and not do work in your community and then complain about all the sex trafficking you have in this town. It's like the pastor said, what did he say? It had 20 people in the church? God doesn't need a ton of people. He just needs the right people. That's all he needs. That's all he needs. I always like to look back at something Mike talks about when he talks about the 3% of the colonists that fought against the British. Do you guys realize it was just 3%? That's it. They weren't waiting for 100% of the colonies to get on board. They just took the 3% they had. If they can do that, can we not do this? Yeah, of course we can. Hold your community representatives accountable for the work they've agreed to do in saving children, and if they fail to do that, then get them out of office, okay? Remember this, that most people that work in local, state, and federal government work for you, the taxpayer. Don't let them forget that. If you want to save children in America and in your community, then you're going to have to be willing to be courageous enough to pull the veil off corruption, greed, and apathy. One man or one woman with courage is a majority. Never forget that. And if you're a representative here tonight in local, state, or federal government, please listen to these words of wisdom. The greatest leaders are the greatest servants. My job in the military was not to lead my troops in the battle, but it was to make sure they came home alive, to make sure I served them and their needs as a commander. You take care of your troops will take care of you. And if you're a person of conscience, it is possible that the size and weight of this issue tonight is enough to overwhelm your emotions and discourage you from even getting involved in the fight. But let me assure you, there is hope, and it's found in every step you take to acquire the knowledge and the skill set to win the battle to save children. It's never about walking the path the right way. No, I stand corrected. It's never about walking the right path. It's about, are you walking the path the right way? So join us for some training so we can teach you how to do exactly that in a way that's confident and courageous. The greatest battles fought are not against the world, but those we fight against ourselves. And if that be the case, then we're far greater than most other humans, because it is our integrity that forces us to look inward rather than casting blame on the world that surrounds us. Now, I know there's someone in the audience right now that's also saying to themselves, I might be too old to get into this fight. Do not regret getting older. It is a privilege denied to many. I'd like you to complement your wisdom with what we have to offer and get in the fight. We do not rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. Keep in mind, there's a balance even with training. People in your community don't care how much you know until they see how much you care. And with that said, the training that you'll acquire on the 6-day course is one step closer to being prepared, showing the world that you do care and being the hero that kids need. For most of you here today, you're the same people every single day. You intervene, you take action. You do the same thing 1,000 times. And then one day, you do that same thing and it gets broadcast all over the world as an act of heroism. Many other people want to be heroes and they're looking for 15 minutes of fame, but they're couch potatoes every single day. So when the opportunity comes, they're unprepared and they don't even respond. Those aren't heroes. And yes, learning something new is a process, but if you want to keep the results, fall in love with that process. And in doing so, you might surprise yourself when you save a child. Saving one child will not change the world, but for that one child, their entire world will change. Don't expect the federal government to take care of this problem. Although we are pleased, and you've heard us say it, that President Trump is getting in on the fight. But guess what? They have their hands full, just cleaning up all the corruption and trying to run government at the same time. So you need to help them. This problem is in your community and most communities around America. It's not sitting on the doorsteps of the White House. It's in your backyard, and guess what? It's your responsibility to cut your own grass. So don't be disappointed, as I said, with the results you don't get if you don't do the work. And may I remind us once again, it is not we the government, it is we the people. Each of you in this room has earned the right to decide the fate of this nation because you are the fate of this nation. Every child being trafficked is waiting to be saved. If we do not, who will? If we do not, who will? Unashamedly, you are their voice, you are their shield, and you lead by examples, always remembering who you are. If you do this, I promise you, you will create a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. Please get in the fight. Thank you, and may God continue to bless you and our great country, the United States of America. All yours.
Thank you, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Baz Tina, what a great presentation. And while you're standing, give yourselves a round of applause for being here. You've seen some great modeling and mentoring, and you made the fight. Thank you so much. Round of applause for General Flynn and the entire America's Future team. And I'm going to turn it over to Mary to close us out.
Let's upbeat this now. I'm going to introduce you to a new single that has just hit the airwaves. Something in the Water. Please, Alanka and Eddie Rapp. We're going to upbeat this, bring this Holy Spirit into this situation, and I want you to stretch. And
crimes against children got to stop in America.
Woo!
On your feet.
Woo!
Wasn't looking for freedom. It was something that I thought I had. Rebellious, wild and running. It was sad, sad, sad. I could feel the change was coming.
It's coming, y'all.
Whether I wanted it or not. I started talking to Jesus. I said, hey, show me what you got. My troubles took me to the river, and I laid him down, down, down. Here we go.
You know
There's
this.
something in the water that set me free. That old preacher pulled me under, and he baptized me. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. We got together at the river. Ooh, believe it. There's something in the water. Well, I was drowning in the flow of mercy, current sweeping through my soul. Oh, and flooded me with salvation, well, the grace I thought I'd never know. My troubles took me to the river, and I laid him down, down, down.
Let them know something.
There's something in the water.
Let them know something. Let them know. Let them know something. Let them know. Let them know something. Let them know.
That old preacher blew me under, and he baptized me. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, we got together at the river gate. You know there's something in the water that set me free. That old preacher blew me under, and he baptized me. Take your troubles to the river. Down, 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 down. And then he saved me.
Been so far out like Landers. Crimes against children, California stand up. Lies they spread went around the world. The truth ain't put its pants on. My people need the healing, so they stop robbing, stealing. Rob, refuge, rockin' redeemer. 3 words I say, thank you, Jesus. Euphrates River, Book of Revelation, 6 trumpet judgment. Never forsake us, he love you. Sitting at right hand of Abba, Father, Master, spiritual advisor. Lyrical, Mayalico, precious mothers, sons and daughters, highest praise. Hosanna!
That set me free. You know there's something in the water. 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 Yeah, yeah. Woo!
Woo! Thank you. Woo! Alanka, we're having lots of panels tomorrow. Alanka will share the music industry, and there is my Jaguars in the house, right? Where's Odell and Jaguar? Are they here? We got some unbelievable stuff tomorrow. So please, guys, for hanging in there. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. God bless America.